Let's start the video with 3 words to describe this bread.
Simple but delicious.
Oh, that's nice.
Hi everyone, I'm Novita.
And I'm Seraphine.
Welcome to the channel.
Today we're showing you how to make Crusty cheese artisan bread. This artisan bread is crisp on the outside but has a soft, chewy interior that's so delightful.
And I think everybody loves it in this household.
I can testify, because it really over-delivers with the end result. And the cheese also matches perfectly with the bread.
And you like to add extra cheese, don't you, Seraphine?
I can't deny that. I like cheese,
So, without further ado, let's go! Oops. Let's do it!
Alright, let's define success. Looking at the surface of the bread, it should have a dark golden brown color with hues of lighter brown. Needless to say, it should look great, with a very appetizing aroma. When we press down on the crust, it should crackle with a crisp or crunchy sound. And don't miss the hollow sounds when you knock it on the back. Later on, when we cut it open, we should expect an open crumb with beautiful irregular air pockets spread throughout, indicating our gentle and long handling of the dough. Also, as a properly hydrated bread, we can expect it to look shiny. And the color should never be a pale white. Instead, it should be a warm cream shade. Last but not least, it has to taste delicious, good enough to eat all day long. That should be expected from the slow and gentle process that it went through. Alright, let's take the first step, making the Poolish our favorite preferment. Poolish is simple to make. Just take 200 grams of bread flour and then add in the same amount of fruit yeast water. Or if you're using instant yeast, you can add from 1/8 to 1/4 of a teaspoon of instant yeast. The more yeast you add, the faster the Poolish will be ready. But the longer it ferments for, the better it will taste. After the dry yeast, we then add 200 grams of water, gradually while mixing continuously. Once we have all the ingredients, mix thoroughly until the flour is fully hydrated. We love to use chopsticks for this task. It's simple and effective. The mixing won't take long. When it's done, your dough should look like this. And this is what a shaggy dough looks like. We then cover and leave it to ferment until the Poolish matures. For the Poolish with instant yeast, it may take 5 to 8 hours at a room temperature of 29 degrees Celsius. If you're using fruit yeast water, it could take anywhere from 12 to 18 hours. We can't cheat with Poolish. It will take the time it needs to mature. And that's what will improve the flavor, texture, and shelf life of the bread. Okay, now the Poolish is ready. We add 80 grams of water to it. This, along with the bread flour that we're going to add later, will bring the total hydration of the dough to 70%. We mix them well before we drop in the other ingredients. Half a teaspoon of salt. Stir to make sure the salt is evenly distributed. Salt works to control the yeast fermentation and to tighten the gluten strands that are formed and make them stronger. Salt also enhances the bread's flavor and its crust color. Once you get this kind of consistency, it's time to drop in the bread flour. 200 grams of bread flour, okay, let's remove the scale. Now what we're going to do is get this newly added flour fully incorporated with the rest of the ingredients. A simple spatula will get the job done. It can be hard to mix in the beginning, and you may have to use a scraper to get rid of all the dry flour from the sides of the bowl. But eventually, after a few minutes of mixing, you will end up with a homogeneous dough like this. Cover and let it relax for about 45 minutes. Now we're going to do a set of 4 stretch and folds. To keep the dough from sticking, we dip our hands into a small bowl of water before touching the dough. Then we pick up a side of the dough, stretch it up, and fold it over. That's one of the 4 sides. Now we turn the bowl to do the same thing on another side. Dip your hands again if you find it necessary, and then continue for the remaining 2 sides. Once done, although this is optional, we usually flip it over. Cover and let it relax for 45 minutes. While the dough is relaxing, we prepare the cheese. We chop this cheddar cheese into small cubes. There's no need to put them on the scale. It's up to us to decide how much cheese we add. Okay, it's time for the second set of stretch and folds. But before that, we're going to introduce our cheddar cheese into the dough. Just simply spread them all over the top. Now we're ready for the next set of stretch and folds. Exactly the same steps as we did for the first set, but this time we're folding in the cheese as well. These 2 sets of stretch and folds help develop the gluten network in the dough. It's part of the crucial steps during the bulk fermentation of this recipe. If you have a weak Poolish, you may want to add another set of stretch and folds. At the end of the set, to further strengthen the dough, we'll do some simple coil folds. Now look at this, the dough has become airy and fluffy. Next, we're going to let it relax before we stretch it out even more. So we cover the bowl and leave it for 1 hour. That looks nice. We're going to laminate it now. So to start, we prepare the work surface by spraying it with water. Then we'll also wet our hands, all to prevent the dough from sticking to anywhere. Next, we flip the bowl over and let the dough slink out of the bowl. This shouldn't take long. We can lift the bowl up slowly to speed up the process. Take away the bowl. We're going to spread this dough with our fingers very gently. Gentle is the key because we don't want to create any tears or degas the dough. We're stretching the dough evenly into a rectangular shape. When we have a relatively thin sheet of dough in the right shape, we're going to fold the sides into the middle. Make sure they line up evenly and neatly. We have a long rectangle now, and we're going to gently roll it up from the top down. Take it easy in handling the dough. We want to preserve the fluffiness and prevent tears. Now we have a roll, which we'll return to the bowl. Cover it well, because now we'll be sending it into the fridge. Cold fermenting or retarding the dough is a wonderful way to develop better flavor and make better bread in general. We're going to let it go for anywhere from 8 to 36 hours. The longer you retard the dough, the more complex and flavorful the bread it makes will be. But be wary of over-fermentation, where the yeast has exhausted itself. It's a balance. Once the retard is done, we pull the dough out of the fridge. Now just look at this amazingly fluffy dough. It smells great too. This time we're going to divide the dough and then shape it. After we shape the pieces of dough, they'll go straight into their proofing bowls, so we prepare that first. We use rice flour to dust 4 bowls that have been lined with cloth. If you don't have any rice flour, you can substitute it with more bread flour, but it's not as effective. Make sure to cover every bit of the proofing cloth with the flour, so as not to have the dough catch onto anything. And with that, we can move on to the next step. Prepare the work surface with flour. We also cover the dough surface with flour. This is to further prevent sticking. We're going to get the dough out by simply flipping the bowl over onto the work surface. Let the dough slide out of the bowl. It should drop down gradually. All you need to do is lift the bowl slowly and it'll come out. Let's take a quick moment now to just appreciate how good it looks. Numerous bubbles, it's really fluffy and cohesive. The gluten network is still going strong. It looks lovely. Okay, let's get our scraper, our scale. We're going to divide this dough into 4 equal portions. Each portion should weigh around 180 grams. While cutting, looks can be deceiving. A fluffy, big blob is not necessarily heavier than a leaner one. We want to cut as close as we can to get the size we want, without resorting to cutting too many chunks to even it out. Unless you don't care about uniform shapes and sizes, you need a scale to get the just right amount of dough for each piece. Cut a little bit from the one that weighs too much to balance it out. Now we have 4 equal pieces. We're going to shape them into boules, using flour to dust our hands throughout the process as necessary. We first spread the dough out a little, get it more even. Then we'll bring the edges around the dough into the center. Continuing in this way, we should eventually get a pretty round dough. This process will build surface tension on the bottom part of the dough. Once it's become tight enough, we want to close the seals by pinching them in a circular way. Then we flip the dough back onto the surface, seam side down, and round it out with our hands. If you feel any bubbles around the edge, make sure to pop them to keep it smooth. It looks pretty good already. So it goes straight into our prepared proofing bowls. Smooth side down and seam side up. Cover it to prevent the dough from drying out. And follow the exact same steps for the other 3 pieces of the dough. When they're all in the proofing container, then we let the boules proof until they double in size, about an hour for instant yeast and up to 2 hours for fruit yeast water. Meanwhile, 20 to 30 minutes before they finish proofing, we're going to start preheating the oven to 250 degrees Celsius. And we're also going to preheat some lava rocks in an oven-proof container. We put them on the bottom rack of the oven. Lava rocks are our $1 solution to baking crusty bread. We're going to pour hot water onto them later, and they're going to help generate steam while the bread bakes. We'll set aside these rocks, heat up some water, bring it to a boil, set it aside, and go back to our dough. We're going to flip the dough out of the bowls. We can do this by covering the bowl with a piece of parchment paper. And then using one hand to hold that down, we flip the bowl with the other. Lift the container and the cloth, and the dough is out, so we'll set it down. Follow the exact same steps with the other 3. Okay, now we dust the excess rice flour off of the dough, just lightly. Done with that, and we're going to score the dough. Holding a razor firmly, we make one long slash off center, following the curvature of the dough. Then add a few more slices to help it open up a bit more. Scoring is to control the expansion of the dough. We're using a sharp razor without a handle. Be very careful here if you're doing something similar. These are very sharp. Being fast and firm is going to help prevent it from snagging. With that, just before we slide our scored boules into the oven, we're going to pour our prepared hot water over the lava rocks. This will provide enough steam for the initial phase of the baking. And to make sure we have enough moisture on the surface, we spray a little bit of water on top of the dough. We're going to bake for 15 minutes, top and bottom heat at 250 degrees Celsius. After 15 minutes, we take the lava rocks out. We don't need to steam anymore. Turn the heat down to 230 degrees Celsius, bake for another 15 minutes, or until they turn dark brown. Then they're done. Take them out of the oven and place onto a cooling rack. It's best to let them completely cool down before cutting them open. The delicious taste of the bread and cheese are absolutely delightful even when eaten plain. Although it also tastes pretty good as a sandwich. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching and bye!